and then get back to clarity. Sorry, there are a lot of interruptions, but at the same time I want to make sure that my audio is not interrupted. The next one. There is a case study here. I am talking about project requirement management. So this is how actually we can manage the requirement management related fact. Let's take a project kicked off with punchline unfrozen requirements. For example, they say, okay, this is my requirements, please do this. It's only one-liner. Okay, so customer informed the requirements need to evolve over a period as it is first of its kind product. So when the supplier went and asked, you asked basically, you as a manager ask the customer, see, you are already giving me only one-liners. The customer gives an answer that, look, this is a first of its kind product. We ourselves are evolving. So when you actually start executing the project, I will give you more and more requirements. This is a very dangerous situation. So customer actually convince you to sign the project as a fixed cost project. Let's take it's a fixed cost project, saying that this is basically very strategic, of great strategic importance and economic importance to them. So you better accept this as a fixed cost. Because supplier accepted it, you started execution. During the execution time, the requirement creeps. Actually, there are a lot of surprises and creeps resulting into the project, actually, which is actually affecting the timeline. So how a PM should handle this fixed cost project, okay, without antagonizing the customer, without making the customer unhappy? How do you handle? That's a tricky one. So what you have to do is, you have to put re-estimation gates in the project plan after each proof of concept of first of its kind requirement. Let us take a first of its kind requirement is not known to the customer or to you. Okay. Now what is happening is, some of the requirements have to be tried and proof of concept has to be established. So which actually requires a lot of time to establish proof of concept. So put those re-estimation gates for replanning for each of the proof of concept. Now the question is, since it is a fixed cost, how do you handle this? You have to actually say that for each of these proof of concept, if it fails, then we have to have a change request separately, where we will handle the effort or timeline or cost estimate separately. Another option is go for time and material business model. So it's very easy. Depending on when there is a proof of concept which is actually failing, you can go for time and material model. Okay, now what are the types of facts which can actually result in project staffing and allocation? Okay, sorry, there's some interruption here. I'm just waiting for the slide to come up. Okay, I hope you can see that. Now project staffing and allocation related fact is basically, how do you allocate the right person to the right kind of work with the right motivation level. Okay. First is about recruiting candidates. Okay. Recruiting borderline candidates under pressure, because there's a lot of pressure for you to recruit candidates because customer is waiting, you don't have right kind of resource, so you have to go to the market and recruit the resources. Now there's a lot of pressure on you to recruit. So what happens is, in interview you'll ask some questions, say 5 questions are answered, 5 questions doesn't get answered properly, so you are not sure whether to take that person or not, but finally you took the person. It is better to reject a border candidate than simply recruiting them. What happens is, accepting those kind of candidates actually will affect the existing team members' morale. And also it is better if questions are not getting answered, then it is another way to assess the candidate is by asking certain new areas which you don't know whether he is able to grasp the question itself. Some candidates I have seen that they are not able to even grasp the question itself in the interviewer, or they might use some jargons to answer it. So the jargons are used to confuse the interviewer. Both the candidate and the interviewer will not know what exactly it is. So, I mean, so there are many ways. Even the candidate can confuse the interviewer, taking it around the world, or the interviewer may not be able to assess the candidate in the right way, or he is not coming into the area where he wants the candidate to come in. So he might take the interviewer around the world and then answer the questions in a different way. So you have to avoid all those as a smart interviewer. Now, having interviewed and taken the person, a high potential engineer, for example, let us take a high potential engineer is taken and given manual testing work. Okay. So you did not ask him what is your interest, how you are. So he's a high potential engineer. Let me put simply allocate that engineer to a repetitive testing kind of work. So what happens? Sometimes if you don't ask the real opinion or the interest of the candidate and simply push the team member into the job, then it is like asking an elephant to kick a tennis ball. What happens is he's having so much potential that you are asking him to do a small work which he may not like it. So, and also the reverse is also true. Some low capable people are taken and then you are given some big kind of work where they have to think and design and do something. So it is basically like asking frogs to fly. So some frogs cannot fly. You have to actually match the capability of the person with the work getting allocated. Inefficient team mix. What does it mean? Inefficient or ineffective team mix. What happens is you have a lot of juniors in the team, and what happens is there is no real mentorship there. So to get a real good project mix, you should have at least one senior member for 7 juniors. So 1:7 ratio actually works extremely well. Okay, you have to get this ratio. Otherwise, what happens is it will be like headless chickens. So they may be misguided, or they may not be guided properly. Okay, they may not have any directions, and they will make a lot of mistakes, and there will be a lot of time to take the correction for the mistakes. The other one is talking parrots. What does it mean, talking parrot? There are many team members in the team who just talk. They will talk big things, but when it comes to really execution, they are very poor. Okay, they might be very good in English. They would have been convent educated. They may not be from a village. They will have been urban brought up, but they will be talking extremely well. They will only do lip service, but not real service. So you have to basically convert these talking parrots to working mode. If they are not changing, then you have to take punitive actions. And also one more thing is ornamental or decorative roles in a project. Simply having one role without having proper idea what he is trying to do in that project role. So just because he is in the company for 10 years, 15 years, everybody love him or everybody like him, you cannot put a person there in the project without having a proper role. So these ornamental or decorative roles in the project is a fat. So you should take it out. The next one. So I'm waiting for the slide to come up. I think there's some problem with the slide.